Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Freedom for Rulers. Today I have a special guest, the model anarchist. He's going to discuss things from spirituality to anarchy. So let's get right into it. Uh, how would you like me to call you? The model anarchist? Is that okay?
Oh, sure. That's fine if that's what you prefer. Or my name's Steven. Either way.
Okay. To keep it short, I'll call you Steven. So tell us a bit about yourself and what led you to come to social media with your ideology and the name of the model anarchist.
Uh, well, to address the social media issue is, obviously, like everybody else, I've been living in this world for the last 3 years, and we've seen the chaoticness that is the COVID. You know, and just the mishandling, the gross lies, the misdirection, the people getting thrown under the bus. It really expedited a lot of the beliefs that I was already previously holding about the government and what is the government. Um, and so I got to a point to where I just knew, like, I've got these ideas. I know a lot of people respond well to the way I articulate these ideas. They're not my ideas, of course, but I mean, people respond well to the way I articulate it. So one night I just started making reels on Instagram, and that was early November 2022, and I had about 376 followers, all of which had nothing to do with political perspective, because those were just people I knew from before. And then over the course of November and December, my page just really picked up a lot of traction. It seems like a lot of people have responded well to the way that I framed my point of view. And I'm up a little over like 50,000 now, maybe 52,000 or something like that in followers.
Yeah, that honestly makes me very happy because it's good to see people are embracing this ideology. They're coming to know anarchism as not just like the word that people know as chaos and Molotovs in the street, but an actual ideology where people can, free themselves from like you said, the tyrannical government. I'm also in the same boat as you. I started this podcast a little bit like 2 years, a year and a half into the scamdemic, as some call it, and I just felt like they forced our hands. So since they're doing all this propaganda, all this media manipulation, we also have to come in. Like you said, Instagram Reels is a really good. I mean, kind of using their technology against them, but it's a good way to spread our message.
Well, I believe that social media is just a tool, just like a shovel or a hammer or a firearm. And if we use it for good, then it's a good tool. And social media is the most powerful weapon the underlings have ever had against the ruling class, because we have the ability now to organize and communicate and modify our behaviors in unison, and we can suck all their power away. They're a very small percentage of the population, and they are hyper dependent on our compliance.
Yeah, our ignorance and our compliance. I had another question. Can you
Sure.
define anarchism? Yeah, like compared to what other people might think it is.
Okay. Well, like everybody, I get it. I grew up in America in the 90s when I was a teenager. And so anarchy was always like death and destruction. It was punk rock. It was chaos. It was,
Mhm.
violence, and it's not what you want. Um, but there's a few different ways to define anarchy. From a spiritual perspective, I believe anarchy is the only thing that exists, because anarchy is the understanding of self-ownership. And every human, every animal, every insect, every plant, its life force has control over its own body. That's just the way it is. Even if somebody's holding a gun to your head, you still have to comply with what they're saying, right? So they're still not forcing you; they're just coercing you. So from
Mhm.
a spiritual perspective, that's what anarchy is to me. And then from more of like a political spectrum, the etymology of the word "and" meaning without, archy meaning rulers. So instead of, a lot of people misunderstand it. They think it means no rules, but anarchy doesn't mean no rules. It just means no rulers, right? And
Mhm.
under anarchy is the only way a person can be free. And the way I decide if I'm free, the way I recognize if I'm a free person, that's if I have 100% discretionary authority over the proceeds of my labor. If anybody's taking my labor from me, I'm not free. And it doesn't matter if it's half a percent, quarter a percent. If it's a gun to my head to steal it from me, I'm not free.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that definition. Really quick, do you know of any other? public anarchists. I know of Michael Malice. James Corbett used to be really big until he got pulled off of YouTube, but he's still pressuring the system. Mark Passio has came out with a lot of material on this. What other people that people could look to and it's kind of feel like they're not alone? Who do you
Well,
recommend?
the first anarchist that I really came across that just really made so much sense to me is Larkin Rose. And
Mm,
what I a buddy of mine showed me Larkin Rose's animated YouTube short called The Jones Plantation. And
yeah,
it painted this story on a slave plantation that made you realize, like, wait a minute, that's exactly what's happening right now to us. Um, and so from that YouTube short, my friend came across his book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, and then sent me a copy. And then I read it and I just ate it up, and I was just like, how did I not see any of this? This is so simple. It's not a complicated concept.
yeah, yeah. I think that that's a great person, like you mentioned. He also inspired a lot of people. But yeah, like you said,
Hmm.
it's so simple, and that's what makes it, I think, so. Uh, for us to teach other people, it gives us hope because it is that simple, and it makes so much sense. And I think people, once they get the truth, they're not going to go back to the old way. Like once you're
Right.
converted, you're not going to be, it's so better over there in the plantation.
Yeah,
So I was
it's
also
kind
going
of
to
like
ask,
the oh, go ahead.
yeah, finish. No, finish up.
I was going to say it's just the Matrix analogy. You can't go back in once you're out. Once you take that red pill, you're out. You can never see it the same way again. It's like with your backdrop there, having those sunglasses on permanently from the movie They Live. You can't take them off. It's not an
Yeah,
option anymore.
glad you recognize it. Okay, so many people believe anarchism is a pipe dream or a utopian idea, meaning that it only work on paper. Why do you believe that people can make anarchism work? Why do you have a belief in the human race?
Well, okay, so I'm going to answer that in two different ways. I'll start with why I believe anarchism can work. The truth is because anarchism is all there is. Each and every one of us self governs our own body, and we have no control beyond the tips of our own fingers. And because that's already the default, what that tells me is this concept of government is actually the imaginary thing, the thing that's not working. And you can look around now and see the amount of death, destruction, chaos, poverty, mismanaging of everything that governments do. And that's not working for society. You're telling me you'd rather stick with that instead of trying something new? I mean, let's quit beating our heads against the wall. Um, but to your second question, why do I think that humanity's good? How'd you phrase that? What do I see about the best in
Uh,
humanity?
yeah, why do you believe in humanity's ability to? I know people call them sheeple, NPCs, like bots, like things like this, like pretty much not having hope in humanity. So why do you believe that people can't come to this conclusion?
Well, so I sometimes I fall into that trap of referring to everybody as NPCs or bots or sheep or whatever. But the truth is, they're victims of hypnotizing. If you go and you read a book on the process or the what it takes to hypnotize somebody, you'll realize the television is the hypnotizer, and people build their living rooms to create an environment that puts them into a more relaxed mode and ready to be programmed by the television programming, you know, and the media is incentivized to keep you there and to regulate your behaviors. So I feel bad sometimes feeling like these people are NPCs. I think some of them, the damage is so far gone, they'll never be able to come back. But for the most part, within each and every one of us, we have we have the natural laws of human interaction. And without getting too deep into what all that is, it the basics of it is all interactions between humans should be voluntary. If they're not voluntary, they're bad. Right, because if you're not voluntarily interacting with another human, then you're not accessing your right to free association. If you can't walk away, you don't have your human rights, right?
Hmm.
Um, and a vast majority of people want that. Every city, whoever, anywhere somebody is that they're watching this, you're in a city or you're in a community, and within that community are businesses. And each and every one of those businesses opened up with the idea of I want to provide something for this community and have a mutually beneficial relationship that doesn't require force. I mean, that's literally what 7.6 billion of the 7.7 billion people on this planet want. And so if we were to just shun the initiation of force and shun involuntary interactions, then we could get to this place where, everybody has access to their human rights.
Hmm. Yeah. So let me get to this next question. If someone were to violate the rights of another person, how would people bring that person to justice? Would it be a Wild West type situation where somebody is hired to hunt that guy down? What gives someone the right to declare another person a threat to society, and what punishments are ethical? Essentially, how will disputes be handled? I can break that down if you want.
Sure. No, no, no. I get, it's all kind of a grouped question there. So I want to start off with saying I don't have all the answers. We've got 7 billion people on the planet, and somebody probably has a better idea than what I have about it. But because I get this question a lot, I do have some ideas, and they're not necessarily perfect because there's certain things that I don't know how to just generalize. Like it's easy to generalize how somebody who stole $500 from somebody else should be handled and then rehabilitated back into society. But it's hard to say how do you generalize what should happen to somebody who committed rape or committed murder. I don't have all the answers. But what I do believe is it comes back to that voluntary interaction thing. The way it is right now, we don't have a choice but to fund the current justice system, which is obviously a complete failure. So I think we would be better off if we had privatized justice systems that were competing in the market. And so what you could then do as a consumer, you could go, oh, well, this company over here, I like how they approach rehabilitation. I like that the officers of their company aren't harassing or extorting the members of my community. I like that they're very cautious about the way that they go about investigating. Right. So you say, I'm going to send my money over to company A. And then when company A stops representing your values, then you should have the right to take your labor from company A and contribute it to company B or no company at all, right? Because it all comes back to you need to have the 100% discretionary authority over the fruits of your labor. And so I think with competition comes with competition and the ability to withdraw your funding, then companies are going to start producing the results that they promise to produce. Everything the government says it's going to do, whatever the government program is, the opposite is the result. But companies that are actually have to earn your trust and earn your labor instead of stealing it from you are actually going to hold themselves accountable. The people who hold a gun to your head are never going to hold themselves accountable to you.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean that's a good thing to say. We don't have all the answers, but at least we're trying to enlighten people to the fact that the current system is you don't have a choice. You're basically a slave. Like you can't say
Yeah.
no, I don't want to go to court. Like they'll pull you in there. But
Well,
I mean,
and like I said, you don't have it in this country. You don't have the right. You don't have the 100% discretionary right to your labor. Taxes are taken from you by force and threat of violence. There's Here's the thing that I try to tell people: slavery is on a gigantic spectrum. There are some slaves, historically speaking, that we can look at and go, wow, those were terrible conditions. But then there have been other slaves historically, and we happen to, fortunately, I guess, be in the more pampered side of the spectrum. But when it comes to freedom, there's no spectrum. You have it or you don't.
yeah. So my next question is regarding another political party that people kind of forget about, libertarians. So are libertarians similar to anarchists? Are libertarians close but no cigar? As in like they're almost there, but since they want a smaller government, but like not all the way, like get rid of it.
Well, so if I talk to a Republican or a Democrat, they think I'm a libertarian. So from their
Mhm.
perspective, yes, anarchy and libertarianism is very much the same. But when I talk to libertarians, um, they can't let go of this belief that there needs to be a small group of people that have the moral authority to initiate force and violence against others. And so when you grant, no matter how small the group is of people that you grant those powers to, it will always expand. Always. The Constitution of the United States is the most governmentally restrictive document that mankind has ever drafted, yet it's led to the largest war machine ran by pedophiles and human traffickers.
Hmm. Yeah, like once you give them a piece, they'll take the whole cake.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go into a question about liberals and why they believe the government is essential. So from the Britannica Dictionary, liberalism is defined as this. Liberals typically believe that government is necessary to protect individuals from being harmed by others. And then Thomas Paine, one of the founding fathers essentially of this country, described government as a necessary evil. Why do true liberals understand the evil of government yet excuse it at every opportunity? Is the fear of taking a stand against the beast too much for them? Or are they okay with living immorally?
I think a lot of it is that what you're seeing with people that really defend the government, it's they do it with the religious who because of their faith and their quote unquote fear of God thought that they were compelled or given the rights to now go out and hurt other people, right? Initiate force and violence in other people because they've been granted that permission by God. And when you frame the way that Republicans and Democrats talk about government, it's the same way that Christians talk about God. And so it's just this religious fervor. They're caught into a belief system. So you said that in the beginning, their is the one holding the gun to the head of the people. So their belief system is based in a logical fallacy.
And yeah, what you were mentioning about the religious people and the belief in government, yeah, it's in the Bible. Basically, people say the quote from Jesus in Romans that you must pay Caesar what's his, and other quotes from the Bible, and they think, well,
Sure.
this makes it right.
Again, like the Bible, I believe it's flawed, like the Book of Law. It's not the perfect document. I don't believe the infinite God is confined to the 66 books in the Bible that have been used to create all sorts of war and death and chaos and everything the opposite of what that book's supposed to stand for. So, yeah, I mean, your Bible says whatever. I just don't believe it.
Hmm. And I have another quote. James Madison, one of our signers of our Declaration, he is quoted with saying, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary." And then I've argued with people here in California about government and during the recent pandemic, and basically they come up with that same conclusion that people aren't good people, and we need like a government to get the, let's say, rapists, murderers, so we don't have to deal with it. And let me just finish this question. Due to people's lack of intelligence and morality, we need an authority who can come in and take care of the troublemakers. This is what they think. Is the solution to enlighten all people so that they can behave like angels? What are the steps to increase morality? That way, that people like James Madison can't say that we need government because people are just monsters.
Well, the way I see it is, when you have an animal that's raised in captivity in a zoo, it has very different behavioral characteristics than what its counterpart in the wild has. And as it is right now, I believe all humans are basically raised in captivity. And so all of the illnesses and the sicknesses of society are a direct result of the fact that we live day to day with a gun to our head. We're not free people, and free people are kind of shitty, right? But free humans, the wild humans are compassionate. We're generous. We're cooperative, right? If we weren't generous, charities wouldn't exist and GoFundMe never would have taken off. If we weren't cooperative, we wouldn't have society at all. We'd all be living in a cave by ourselves, and if we weren't compassionate, then you wouldn't see how frequently people help people. I mean, look at photos coming out of any natural disaster area, and people are helping people just for the sake of I'm a human, you're a human. I don't want you to die.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've looked into like psychology, and people always mention there's like a 3 to 5% of humans that are psychopathic, so they have no empathy at
Mhm.
all. But that's only 3 to 5%, and well, they get away with some stuff, but not all of it.
Well, but see, the problem is a psychopath is attracted to power like a moth to the flame. So what we've got right now is right now in Congress, there's 535 psychopaths. That's what they are, and they have all the control. 535 people are holding a gun to 200 million honest, hardworking Americans. Why are
hmm
we allowing that? I mean, what would they do? What would they do if even 10% of us took our license plates off tomorrow and stopped paying the DMV? Nothing. They don't have the manpower to regulate it. If we all gathered in one area for like a regular protest, we can outnumber the cops 20 to 1. But they got the equipment, they've got the tactics, they've got the battle strategies and the training. But if we don't gather in one place and we just all stop paying, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, I have the same issue with that you have with the DMV because humans are supposed to have the right to travel freely. We should be able to, even it doesn't matter the vehicle, if it's licensed, not licensed, ugly. We have the right to travel from one place to another, not bothered. So I
And
agree with you there.
we get to hold people responsible if you cause an accident, and we need to investigate and find out how grossly negligent it was. But uh, if you haven't caused an accident, then it's not up to me to interfere with what you're doing. You're obviously doing fine, you know. And with the right to travel, I'd like to tell this to people too. The first thing we teach ourselves as human, or one of the first things that we teach ourselves as humans, is how to get from here to there. It's like one of our oldest skills. I want to travel, and we have the right to utilize the technology and the science of the world that we were born into.
Yep. Okay. Now, my next question: what systems can humans have without government that can regulate or improve business practices? Tim Pool from the Timcast IRL podcast. I've heard him justify government by saying that the Cuyahoga River fires caused by industrial dumping is an issue that will probably continue to happen if there's not some type of government regulating businesses to not do like those type of practices, like dumping oils into rivers or whatever, like
Right.
Pfizer poisoning people. So, well, like you mentioned, a decentralized court system, is that the solution as well? Like a regulatory system that, or some type of public opinion thing that tells you this company's doing this company's doing that.
Well, so I've got a couple of suggestions for or remarks to that. First, so Tim Pool's talking about a fire that happened, and he says without government, these fires are going to happen. And I would just like to point out the obvious that we have government, and this happened, right?
Yeah.
So it already happened. So don't sit up there and tell me that it's going to. You know what I mean? Like you're making a dumb argument if you're telling me it's going to happen, even if you're saying it's going to happen with more frequency. I don't believe that. I don't believe that because, part of being free is being responsible for yourself. And when you're responsible for yourself, then you're going to take it upon yourself to figure out how you vote for the kind of world you want to live in with your dollars, whatever it is that you're using your money for. And I think if there weren't barriers to entry into the marketplace for every company that's out there dumping sewage into the rivers, there's 50 companies that have a sustainable and environmentally friendly way to do the same business, but they're barred from entering into the marketplace because of government regulations. So not only are these fires happening while there's government, I believe these fires are happening directly because of government.
hmm Yeah, and you touched upon people's ability to vote with their dollars, which I think is really like a key thing that we can do to take our power back. Because if you think of like a vegan, they won't support a meat business. So if everybody
Right.
turned vegan, ideally, I mean, or obviously all the businesses that sell meat, they'll be out of business. And that's how people voted with their dollars, with their choices.
Right. And the people that go out of business, they'll either go get a job, they'll have to deal with that. It's hard. It's hard losing a business, and there's a wide range of ways that people deal with something like that, but they'll have the opportunity in this system to immediately get back into another business because there's no barriers to entry into the marketplace. You know, when you
Yeah.
get rid of government, you also get rid of corporations. Mega corporations can't take over, right? A
Hmm.
corporation is what people do when they want to engage with others, but they don't want to be held liable themselves. And if that's your attitude about engaging with others, then I have some reservations about engaging with you, right?
Yeah.
When I go do something, I'm liable. I'm responsible.
Basically, they charge you for an LLC. So if you want to start a business in California, it's like $1,000. And even then, just so you could be, oh, I'm not responsible. It's the business that did it. When you're the main guy.
Well, and as soon as you form that LLC, it's now owned by the state because the LLC is legal fiction, right? You can't go to Walmart, like the legal fiction Walmart, the company Walmart. You can go to a store that says Walmart on the building, and it's got a bunch of people inside that wear a name tag that says Walmart, and they're all pretending to be Walmart, but Walmart itself doesn't exist. So as soon as you form this LLC, you're now owned by the legally fictional government as well, and now you're bound by their rules because you entered into a contract with them. You don't need to go get permission to go open a business and enter into the marketplace. You have the right of free association, and so does everybody else. Let the market decide if you survive.
hmm So I kind of think I know your opinion on this, but do you believe the system of government we have today is immoral?
Um, oh wow, that's actually kind of a deep question. Deep. The easy answer is yes. I believe it's immoral because it's directly in conflict with the natural laws of human interaction. And being in harmony with the natural laws of human interaction is morality. Being out of harmony is immorality. But from a spiritual level, I believe in the global consciousness that everything's one. God is experience. God is every single atom, and He's experiencing an infinite number of limitations. Because as the unlimited God, He has no limitations, so He just wants to experience it. And for whatever reason, I think human behavior is a sign of kind of like the emotional state of the global consciousness. And right now, I think the global consciousness is a little bit sick. And see, we're life, we're life force, and life exists to continue to perpetuate life. So if life engages in behaviors that result in death, then there's something wrong. There's a mental illness with life, and so our society, government itself is produces death. It's a death cult. And so, yeah, I mean, from a spiritual level, it's immoral, and from just a logistics level of the natural laws of human interaction, I believe it's immoral.
Yeah, I believe just if you believe that the government is funded solely by tax money, which is not because there's the Federal Reserve that prints it up and gives it to people. But if it's solely funded by tax money, and if you know that taxation is not voluntary, most of the time it's just taken out of your paycheck, then that would make it immoral because the government, the entity, is stealing from all the people. And that's not with the laws of nature, like you were mentioning.
Right. And it's self-evident to each and every one of us. We don't like being stolen from. You
Hmm.
know, if somebody's getting, if I'm walking down the street and I see an old lady get her purse snatched and I chase down the purse snatcher and beat him up a little bit, nobody's going to call me the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Because we all understand it's self-evident. We don't like being stolen from, and you shouldn't steal. And even though the purse snatcher stole, he even knew that you shouldn't steal. This is why he had to run. He even
Hmm.
knew it was wrong. We all know what's right and wrong.
Yeah, and I've heard philosophers talk about it through natural law, and that we all have human reason, which is why we're able to observe something and say that's wrong, that's right, just through our minds, our ability to think. So my next question um, was going to talk about liberals and what they believe and how that could be done through an anarchist society. So liberals typically want the government to provide things like healthcare, free housing, student loan forgiveness, universal basic income, uh, protect the environment, ending inequalities, taxing the rich, and so on. Is it possible to provide for what I think they mostly want is taking care of the poor people in an anarchist society? Or would the weakest in our society, the poorest, fall victims to the saying, only the strong survive? If people aren't generous with wealth, how can we prevent chaos and robbery from those who have less than us? And do humans really just need to develop, like you were mentioning before with GoFundMe, um, charitable ideology that people just have to be charitable to those who need it, but not like allow them to continue doing nothing if they're capable of doing something.
Okay, so when you first started asking about the liberals and you're listing off all the things that they want to accomplish, I'm in agreement with all those things. I want people to have a safety net for their health. I want people to have a safety net to eat if they can't, and all these things you were listing, I'm in complete agreement with. I think these things should be accomplished. The last thing you said was tax the rich. So I stand against that. Taxation is theft. So we're not
Yeah.
going to do that. But all those other things, what they're doing is they're saying, I want the government to do it. So why don't you, instead of having the government hold a gun to your head and tell you how that's going to happen, why don't you guys just organize together and fund it on your own? I mean, the money's coming out of your check no matter what, but at least now you get to know that it's not ending up in politicians' pockets, right?
Hmm.
Um, the other thing that I believe is really exciting about humanity right now, and in an answer to your question, is the fact that we have Bitcoin now. We have the blockchain technology, and I believe that the blockchain will eradicate poverty. Poverty cannot exist in a free market. So our concept of poor doesn't even translate over to the kind of society I'm talking about. And the reason why Bitcoin itself would eradicate poverty is because imagine what would happen to a society where the money you earn in your youth has a higher purchasing power than it had, or I'm sorry, let me say one thing before I say that. The current dollar's deflating, right? It's idiotic for us to put so much effort into chasing a asset that is losing value year over year. You have to work harder to just ultimately end up behind. And there's a lot of ways where people, to no real fault of their own, they've got their one nest egg saved up and boom, it's gone. Right. And when they saved it, it became worth less in purchasing power by the time they needed it. So Bitcoin is a deflationary currency. Once mass adoption of Bitcoin hits and the price volatility slows down, it will be on a slow, steady incline in purchasing power. So the money you save today will have more purchasing power next year. So imagine what would happen to a society if the money that you earned in your youth had a greater purchasing power in your retirement, right? That you're living large. You're living large because you're working your ass off when your body's good. And now that your money was stuck. So what that does to a society is that creates a society of saving, a society of being fiscally responsible. What it also does to the economy is companies now go, well, wait a minute. These people know that their money's worth more next year than it is now. I want their money now. So I have to design a product that's worth a shit. Nobody's going to keep buying from me if my shit breaks every year or every 2 years and planned obsolescence goes away. Right. So the compounding effect of a deflationary currency like Bitcoin, and this is what I think that I believe the government's so afraid of. I think even when COVID started, I felt like they were sloppy, like they were rushed. Whatever it was they were doing, they were in a panic. And the more I've really debated it, I really do believe it's the power of Bitcoin that they're afraid of. And they need to transfer us over to a central bank digital currency to really lock down the control. Because once we're on a central bank digital currency, we can kiss this podcast goodbye. We can kiss my Insta goodbye. You know what I mean? Because they're going to go, oh, you can't get gas. You can't go get
Yeah.
food now. Nobody's going to interact with you now. And then all of our kids are screwed and our grandkid, and I don't know if humanity would ever be able to come back from that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think your point about Bitcoin versus the dollar, just because the dollar is a Federal Reserve currency or fiat currency, and they're able to print more uh, infinitely, which devalues it, like you mentioned. And Bitcoin is a fixed amount. I don't know what the exact amount is, but it's never gonna
21
you
million.
never 21 million. So you're never gonna be able to make more than that. So that's why over time, once people adopt it, it'll keep going up in value, not like the dollar.
Well, and
So
this is what I like to tell people too when they tell me that Bitcoin's not backed by anything. I'll tell them Bitcoin is backed by the exact same thing that the federal government, that the United States dollar is backed by, and that's trust. People use the United States dollar not because there's any inherent value in and of itself, but it's because they trust that the United States government is bringing enough force and violence across the world that people are going to continue to interact with the United States dollar. Bitcoin is backed by trust. You look at it and you go, the algorithm's public, the ledger's public. I can never accept counterfeit Bitcoin. All these rules are fair. You know why the government doesn't want to interact in Bitcoin? Because of the public ledger. They can't embezzle money. They can't hide money if it's all on the public ledger. We would know exactly where all of the government's money went. And people who are afraid of transparency are bad people.
yeah, like the what is it, the Pentagon with their black budget, those trillions that they managed to lose that
Yeah.
we don't know where it went. So my next question was about Republicans. Republicans believe in conserving our nation's values, such as freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, individualism, all people being created equal, and many other ideas that our founding fathers incorporated into this country. Many voted for Donald Trump because they saw him as an independent, uncontrolled, classic American that wanted to free our nation from the elite. What message do you have for self identifying Republicans slash conservatives who see the Republican Party as the only hope to keep our nation free and prosperous?
Well, again, I'll say kind of the same thing to the Republicans I said to the Democrats. If you're concerned about the freedom of speech, if you're concerned about your freedoms, you are ultimately responsible for your freedoms. This is how nature has set it up. You are in charge of your freedom. So if you want the freedom of speech, are you better off having a small portion of psychopaths holding a gun to your head telling you that they're protecting your freedom of speech? Or are you better off exercising your freedom of speech without a gun being held to your head? What actually protects your rights? You know what protects your rights is not having people hold a gun to your head and steal your labor.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just have to realize everything that you're fighting for is actually fighting against you, against your basic
Right.
rights. So,
Well, and this is why I believe so many people are miserable. Again, it's because what they want, I believe they want these things. They truly want these things, but their actions are not in harmony. Their actions are not producing the results that they say they're after, but they're not changing their actions. And when you get stuck in these kind of cycles as a person, you become miserable. And this is why there's so many. The farther to the extremes on both the right and the left that you go, the more miserable people get.
yeah, I've also noticed that people kind of they want to delegate these things to somebody else. They kind of don't want to take responsibility, like you mentioned. It's up to you,
Hmm.
but they don't want it to be up to them. They want it to be up to somebody else, so they could do like God knows what, maybe just watch TV or something. But it's ultimately about self accountability, taking responsibility for what you believe.
Right. The cost of freedom is personal responsibility. That is the cost. And our entire system is set up on this concept of deferred responsibility. People don't know where their retirement's going. They don't know what their 401k is doing. They have no idea. The money just comes out of their check and they defer the responsibility of their personal retirement onto somebody else without knowing what's going on. People don't take care of their own health. They just go to the doctor, they don't ask any questions, and they take whatever pills the doctors give them, right? The doctor never addresses lifestyle. He just addresses symptoms so he can sell you pills, a legalized drug dealer. People don't want to protect their own neighborhoods. They defer that responsibility off to the police. They don't get involved anymore to help each other out. So if you're going to defer your responsibilities, you're not free. So what people should do, the first step, all these people should do is say, if I want to claim I'm free, then I'm going to behave in that way. I'm going to take responsibility for myself. If you are going to continue to defer your responsibilities, then you could do yourself a favor by saying, I'm not concerned with freedom. I want to be owned. And that will
Hmm.
create a little bit extra inner peace for you for a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw some of your Instagram reels. Oh wait, actually, let me go back to this question. It's about the voting, like you mentioned in your Instagram. So both Democrats and Republicans see the voting system where we could choose our senators, mayors, presidents, etc., as a way to be represented in the system which we currently live under. What message do you have to people who vote in order to have the person who they feel best represents their values in charge of the system? Is there a system of government? Oh wait, is the system of government we know today basically lying to everybody that they're doing exactly that?
Right. Everything the government tells us is a lie. They do the opposite of what they say they're doing for us. So when they're saying we get to pick our representatives, I mean, I very few people I feel like actually believe the elections are even legitimately counted. But even if they are legitimately counted, we don't really have a we're told who we get to vote for. So we're not, so again, we don't have a choice. And again, what's the point of choosing who holds a gun to your head versus being told who holds a gun to your head? It's the illusion of choice. People feel like they're in control when they think they're the ones making the decisions, but we're not. We're not. And it's self-evident. Look around at what's going on in the world today. It's awful. So much war and death and poverty and destruction. It's disgusting. This is not what humans are supposed to be doing.
Hmm. So, what message do you have for the common voter? Is the solution the same as when they tell you put a mask on? Is the solution just ignore them and don't do it? Or
Yeah,
nonviolent disobedience or something like that?
that's what I believe. I believe that not voting is a vote, right? Not voting is a vote. Whether I vote or not, the problem's not the root of the problem isn't which person, which pedophile, team red or team blue is holding office. The problem is that the office is there at all, right? And when you vote, what you're voting for is you're essentially voting to have a small group of psychopaths use the police to bring force against people to make them comply with you. And in voting, I mean, it's kind of like it's like 7 steps removed, but it's still on the path to violence because that's what you're saying. I'm voting for violence to be brought against these people if they don't comply with the way I want to live. And at the
Yeah,
root, that's against the laws of human interaction.
yeah. And if people are still debating about whether anarchism is correct, well, think of the marijuana laws that were passed in I don't know, the early 1900s, even the prohibition of alcohol. Like somebody put this into law, and then the government, policemen and everything is supposed to go into your house and pull you over and take your weed and lock you up just because somebody voted for it when you weren't even alive. So
Right.
it's the same thing.
Well,
Now, I was
you
gonna.
brought up you
Mhm.
brought up prohibition. Do you know largely how prohibition or why prohibition came to an end?
No, I don't. Enlighten me.
The one of the leading factors in prohibition coming to an end is that juries got sick of the war on alcohol and they started using the power of jury nullification and saying not guilty, not guilty, not guilty on victimless alcohol possession charges. And so
Wow.
now the court system's getting clogged up with cases with trials by jury, and they're not getting convictions. It doesn't make monetary sense for them to continue on with the behavior, so they shift it. Right now, they've dumbed us all down. Nobody knows what's going on in a jury. Most people try to get out of a jury. You want freedom, you better get your ass on a jury so that you can push back against the government. No jury in the history of this country has ever been found liable for their findings. So when you're on a jury, you have complete immunity. The law doesn't apply to you. The judge and the attorneys know the law. If the law is what mattered, the jury wouldn't be there. The jury's there for the moral decision, and morality is always superior to legality.
Yeah, that's very empowering that we have this thing called jury nullification, like you just mentioned. I think people, I mean, I know some people just see the jury letter and just ignore it, but like you mentioned, we do have some power in saying what we think is right. Maybe it's an unjust law, and we could speak up against it in that situation.
That's right. We can nullify it in that case. You're supposed to look at that as a juror as if I was in that person's shoes, what would I want done to me fairly? And so if I'm on a jury and there's not a victim to the person's behavior, then not guilty. I don't care what it is. If there's no victim, if the state can't produce a victim, I'm not going to produce a prisoner for the state, right?
Yeah, no,
And
that's important.
the jury nullification is how we avoid a shooting war and we regulate a tyrannical government, because the police officers aren't so brainwashed yet. If you get 50 police officers together in riot gear and you got them all pumped up because they're going to push some protesters off the Capitol steps, they'll do that. They'll initiate that kind of violence. But the average police officer isn't going to go around and start shooting people for not having the license plates on their car. The police aren't that far gone yet. So the police believe that they're supposed to abide by the findings of a jury, the rulings of a jury, the letter of the law. And right now we could use that to our advantage if we could organize. And that is what I'm attempting to do with my social media, by the way, on my Telegram channel, the Model Anarchist. That's where I want to try and organize. We need to organize synchronized mass behavioral changes to boycott the government. And the few of us that do get arrested, we need to take our case to a trial by jury. And then we need 1 out of 12 jurors to say not guilty. That's all we need. 1 out of 12. That's less than 10%.
Hmm. Yeah, and I agree with you. I want to make it clear. I want a peaceful, non-violent transition to anarchism. So we'll discuss more of that in the next
Sure.
questions. So, what do you have to say to people who actually? What do you have to say regarding the blind belief in authority that most people have?
I just feel like they were indoctrinated that way. When we come out of our mother's wombs, we're blank slates, and our environment tells us what we are, and then we believe it because we don't know any better, and then we start behaving in accordance with what we're being told. And so, hey, at 5 years old, the state is holding a gun to your parents' head and taking you into the indoctrination camps. If the government calls it the public education system, it's really the public dumbing down system,
Mhm.
right? Because that's
Yeah.
what they do. I mean, schools where your human spirit goes to die and then
Hmm.
get medicated.
Yeah, and it's sad. Talking about schools, even in universities now, they're in California, maybe in most places, they're requiring a double jab for people. So when my
Mhm.
channel doesn't get taken down, a double jab to even enter the school. So that's point blank control right there.
I believe kids would be better off at home with no guidance than they would be in the school systems right now.
Yeah, I mean, fake history, a lot of fake stuff that gets taught. So my next question would be: most liberals and Republicans would call the police if there was a situation where they felt threatened. They would also support a war if it means that they don't have to do it themselves, if there's other soldiers that could do it. What message do you have for people regarding their responsibility to defend themselves, and how do they need to do so in an anarchist society?
Um, so along with the right to defend yourself, you have the right to hire somebody to defend you also, if you so choose, right? And as long as that person isn't violating the natural laws of human interaction, then you're well within your rights, right? We see this all the time. People hire bodyguards. I need to be protected. I can't protect myself against all threats. I will voluntarily pay you. And these bodyguards aren't, for the most part, aren't going around shaking down the people on the sidewalk as they're walking around. They're not out there extorting people. They're being responsible and normal humans who are just there to engage in defensive force if need be. And it's kind of along the same lines as the purse snatching analogy earlier. Even though it wasn't my purse that was getting stolen, I'm well within the natural laws of human interaction to chase that purse snatcher down and return the stolen property to the person who it was stolen from. Nobody, no, she could have paid me for that. She doesn't have to pay me for that. I don't have to do it because it's not my purse, but I have the option to do it. We're free. We are free to make, unfortunately, the wrong choice too sometimes, but that's part of freedom.
Hmm.
They not we get what we deserve, but I would rather work toward getting what we deserve without a small portion of the population holding a gun to the rest of our heads. Because I think without the initiation of force, we could have the good ideas rise to the top. A lot of people out there don't want to be a leader in every situation. They would rather be a follower, and that's okay. We're always going to have leaders and followers, but the followers need the ability to walk away when they no longer want to associate with the leader. And so If we were to remove force from the situation, people would gravitate toward the leaders that are actually producing the results they're claiming to be able to produce.
Hmm. Yeah. So my next question regards taxation. Taxation is usually rationalized by people saying that it is not theft because the money is being used for things that the collective uses and you as well will use. So they also say that it's the price you pay to live in a protected country with great roads and welfare systems, etc. How can you argue against taxation using universal principles and or common sense?
Well, one of the first things I love to talk because everybody brings up the roads. So one of the first argument I love to attack on the roads, I said, well, at the end of the Civil War, the North, who we were told was fighting against the South to put an end to slavery, the North passed the 13th Amendment right at the end of the Civil War. And the 13th Amendment says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, comma, except for punishment of a crime where the party has been duly convicted, in comma, shall exist within the United States. So they made slavery constitutionally protected, and then they immediately started locking up newly freed slaves on victimless crimes and putting them on chain gangs and having them build the roads. So don't sit there and talk to me about it was the tax dollars that built the roads. It's always been slave labor that has built the roads when the government are the ones building the roads. If you had the choice, if you had the choice to take your money and put it with a company that's going to build roads, the best road builder for the best price is going to get out there and get the job, and you're going to have better roads for less money, right? We need to, again, it all comes back to we need to get force out of the equation and let the best ideas rise to the top. People will say taxation is the price we pay to live in a civilized society. I don't think a method, a society based on extortion is civilized. I don't think. And the other argument people will bring up is they'll bring up the social contract.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
And
into
in
that one.
order for what's that?
I'm gonna get into the social contract theory.
Do you want me to
Okay.
wait?
No, you could hit it right now. We'll talk about it more
Uh,
as well.
okay. So when it comes to the social contract, a contract can only be a de jure contract if it's entered into willingly with full knowledge of the terms and conditions. Right? What we have isn't a social contract. And if you do want to call it that, it's a fraudulent contract because I'm being forced to enter into the social contract. I'm not advocating that I don't want to help my community. I'm not advocating that I don't want to help my neighbors or that I don't want to fund the roads or that I'm greedy and I just want to keep all my money. I'm just saying I want the right to decide where my money goes and let each and every community decide which social programs it's going to fund. It's better to have the choice, the actual choice, than it is to have the money taken from you and then you're tricked into thinking you have a choice.
Hmm. Yeah, and I find the road argument just very funny because it's the most common one used, and it's
Yeah.
basically like the best argument they could figure out. Like, what about the roads? Like, I
I
find it
get
hard to
this all
believe
the
that. You go ahead.
They go, you don't like roads? I get that all the time. You don't like roads?
You don't like the
Oh my God.
highways?
Yeah.
No, but it's funny because I find it hard to believe that people won't like if they see like 100 potholes in the road, people won't be like, you know what, there's a problem here. We got to figure it out. It's just like
Mhm.
people will eventually get tired of the flat tires and they'll fix the roads, you know?
Well, here's the thing. The DMV is a tax. The DMV is a tax. And the DMV fees, we're told, are to go to pay for the roads. So why won't as far as I know, no states audit their DMV. They always vote against auditing the DMV. They won't even, again, it comes back to accountability, right? They won't show us where the money's going. So why should I be forced to participate in a situation like that?
Hmm. Okay. Um, so another thing that I'm going to touch upon is the idea of changing the system from within. So people often say things along the lines of, we have to change the system from within, and then they start to run for office and other public positions. Is this the way, or do we need to abandon support from the public sector completely?
Well, I guess ultimately the strategy I'm proposing of utilizing jury nullification to push back against the tyrannical government is a way of saying let's change the system from within. So
Hmm.
on its surface, it's a great idea. It's probably the way to do it. I don't want to change the system. I just want to push it back so far to where it just kind of breaks, and we can build a new system. But at the core, it's the same thing. We all see that there's a problem, and we all want to fix it. And it makes sense to go, hey, let's go inside of the system and try and fix it. But the problem is, as soon as you run for office, it's not you're not going to be able to do anything. Washington is littered with the corpses of people that went to go make it better, that went to go change it. The people running the government, the Congress, Congress, the president, even Joe Biden. I don't know about Joe Biden, but they're not idiots. They know what they're doing. They're very,
Hmm.
very evil people. Because if it was just a problem that they were stupid, then smart people would have fixed it already. But that doesn't happen. Somehow, these very stupid people keep running this country. And I like to ask the people who think that Congress is just full of idiots. Like, isn't that a reflection of you if you feel obligated to be bound by the decree of idiots? Like, that makes
Hmm.
you a bigger idiot. Like, the king of idiots is the least idiotic person, most likely, because
Yeah, he fooled
he's at the
everybody.
top. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, you're following him, so you're not any smarter. At least bare minimum. Bare minimum. You're following him. You're not any smarter.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, the government and public sector jobs employ a lot of people. Do you recommend these people move to the private sector or to jobs that are not backed by the government dime? If they choose to work for the government after hearing this message, what message do you have for them?
Well, I mean, I would love it if I woke up tomorrow and I heard that everybody quit their government job. It's just dissolved now. No more cops, no more military, no. And hey, listen, I'll do everything I can to help take care of all of you. If you guys all do that tomorrow, I will put all my efforts into making sure it's a smooth transition for you guys. Yeah, obviously, I think everybody should quit working for the government because ultimately your paycheck comes from stolen dollars. It comes from extortion, and so you're profiting off of ill-gotten gains, and that's really not good for your soul when it comes down to it. Um, oh man, I forgot my other point on that question. I'll throw it back to you.
I don't know. The question was, mm, continue. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
Oh,
you don't remember stuff.
I'm sorry, I remember what I was going to say. So for say there are some government employees that are watching this and they recognize everything that's going on, and you know, I understand that realistically, a vast majority of you are not in a position to where you could just quit tomorrow. But what you can do right now is start planning your exit. If you don't plan your exit, you'll be there forever. At least start planning your exit to make the transition for you. This is what responsible people do. Plan your exit,
Hmm.
but start today.
Yeah, yeah. And just to point out a little example, I think in my city, police officers get paid like 90,000, like starting. That's like three times as much as what a normal 9 to 5 person at a regular job would make, 30,000. So I mean, it's a big incentive for them to keep their job, and I think they're gonna have to say either take a pay cut or something because they're gonna have to learn that it's coming from, like you mentioned, stolen money, and
Right.
hopefully that's enough to change their minds.
Well, something that I've kind of noticed with a lot of people is they do start to plan their exit out of the system and they understand, like, oh, I worked myself into this really high paying job and now I'm hyper dependent on the system. So our system isn't a capitalist system, I don't believe. It's a corporatist. We're corporatist. Sorry, I'm saying that word wrong. And in order for corporatism to exist, the population has to be consumerists. So you need that $90,000 a year job because you're leveraged to the max. That's why you can't quit it because you can't afford to because you're leveraged all the way for the stuff that you have. And it seems a common trend is that as people start trying to break free of the system, they start to adopt more of a minimalist philosophy. And you start to realize, like, actually, I need less stuff. I need less stuff because the more stuff I have, the more I'm trapped by it. I don't own it, it owns me now because I have to spend all of my efforts in maintaining this property.
Hmm. Yeah, there's like a philosophical quote that a wealthy man is not one who has a lot of possessions, but one who desires the least amount of stuff. I mean, that's just
Hmm.
food for thought. If you can't afford your lifestyle, then maybe change what you value so much. And so I was going to go into the social contract theory. The social contract theory argues that individuals have consented, either explicitly or tactically, to surrender some of their freedoms and to submit to the authority bracket of the ruler or to the decision of the majority bracket in exchange for protection of their remaining rights or maintenance of the social order. This is taught in schools as the reason for our government and tries to justify it by telling us that we get our rights protected by the authority. How can you debunk this? I know you already did, but I mean, it's good to point out that they do teach this in high schools.
Yeah, I mean, here's the funny thing about a lot of these types of contracts is, to a degree, it's true because everybody through what word did he use there? Tactical.
Yeah.
Um, so
Mhm.
tactically, we are all consenting to the social contract that we're going to give the ruler the fruit of our labor. It's just what people don't understand is it's a bunk contract. It's fraudulent. And in a legal sense, the only thing required to breach a fraudulent contract is you just need to stop behaving in accordance with it. So as soon as you say, I'm not going to behave in accordance with it, you're shifting that part that says, or that part that said tactically, you're saying, okay, now I'm not. So now I'm not entering into this contract. I haven't consented. Even the contract itself said you need to consent, right at the beginning. It says something about we consent one way or the other, tactically or the other.
Yeah, pretty much just saying that it's basically saying since you haven't fought against it, it's still in play. Since you haven't realized what's going on, it still applies to you,
Right.
basically. Okay, so I was going to ask you kind of like the rationalizations for taxes that we talked about. What are some rationalizations for government that are most common, and how can you counter them?
One of the biggest ones that I get is that people say, well, the government has to establish the border, right, and has to protect us from, invading armies. And so,
Hmm.
to the argument about protection from invading armies, um, I'm not an advocate for the initiation of force, but I am a huge advocate for defensive force. You absolutely have the right to defend yourself against all aggressors. That's self evident. And so, again, we can voluntarily organize, right? None of our military is at home. All of our military is overseas. The Department of Defense, remember how everything the government says, what they're doing is the opposite? All of our military is in somebody else's home. They're not being defensive. They're not protecting our home. They're not protecting our rights. They're over in the Middle East waging war on innocent people wherever, all over the Middle East. Um, and it's easy to tell if you're using defensive force or offensive force based on where you're at. If you're in your home, it's defensive. If you're in somebody else's home, it's offensive. So we can defend ourselves here at home without a government, and we're completely entitled to. A lot of the people that argue for that point are the ones that say, "Oh, we don't get invaded because every American's got a gun. We got 300 million guns in this country," and that's true. I think a big part of the slowdown of the government really tightening its grip around our throat is because of how many guns Americans have. Because you can't. It's just too much. The government doesn't have enough people. 100 million gun owners, 5 million people in the military. The government doesn't want to bomb its own country. That would be silly. What do you got then? And then the
Hmm.
argument about the borders. Borders shouldn't exist. Uh, a border, a border is a violation. It's personally violating my right to free association. I cannot leave this country or have other people come into this country without the permission of both people's governments. Why should the government get involved for me to have a chance to meet somebody else? Right? And then people will
Hmm.
go, "Oh, well, you got locks on your door, you got a fence around your house." And I go, "Yeah, I do. I'm exercising on that little plot of land that I occupy personally, not collectively, personally. I am exercising my right to free association. I don't want people over this side of the fence. You come over this side
Hmm.
of the fence, and then we have problems. If I'm on the other side of the fence, then we're all open. I don't want to intrude on anybody else, but I don't have the right to tell my neighbor who gets to come over and on their side of the fence. They get to
Hmm.
make that decision, right? And so borders should be down. And the obvious argument against borders right now, especially to Republicans who are afraid of all the illegal immigrants coming over and all the drugs spilling over and all the other stuff. The Republicans seem to believe that all the illegal immigrants are violent. or drug dealers or human traffickers. And my answer to them is, without restrictions at the border, they would be outnumbered 1 billion to 1 by all the good people that want to come here. But the people that want to come here and they want to play by the rules and they want to do good with everybody and they want to cooperate and they want to work together, they're the ones trying to go through the proper channels and that are getting told no, 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 no. And then all the bad ones are getting in. So again, the borders make no sense.
Mhm.
It's backwards.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of cartels that the border patrol deals with that run human trafficking routes. They're the ones that run it, and they're the main guys. Do you think people in power would allow their power to be ignored if all people came to the realization of the immorality of government and other authority-like systems, or will they choose to destroy it all, like a mentality of if I can't have it, nobody can? Will they really allow us to just stop having government?
Well, if we all, like, if 100% of us, like every military officer, every FBI agent, everybody who's not, like, quote unquote in charge, if we all just stopped complying and said, you have no more power over us, then there's nothing they could do. They can only break things on a mass scale because they have the centralized power. Once we ignore their power, a psychopath can only hurt the people in their immediate environment. They can't hurt people, you know, halfway around the world. So they wouldn't want to let go of it, but they have us in the mind. They have us trapped in the mind. As soon as we wake up and just, it's like the Wizard of Oz. As soon as we pull that curtain back and we see the wizard for what he is, then he loses all of his power. And people are having a hard time doing that right now. I feel like Toto, the dog, trying to pull that curtain back.
Yeah, because they only get their power from the strong men, the strong brute force, the police, the military. And behind the curtain, it's someone like Klaus Schwab, who's all wrinkly and kind of past his prime. But yeah, they have no power without
Yeah,
us.
what a
So
complete psychopath that guy is, huh? Klaus
yeah,
Schwab. Oh my
yeah,
God.
it's almost like a movie. We're living in a movie. They just put that character up there. He is a puppet, but they chose
Yeah.
the perfect archetype.
I mean, it's all on TV, and everything on TV is fake. Everything, all of it. I've been on
Yeah.
TV twice, and it was all a lie.
Okay, so my next question, do you believe there is a spiritual part to the evil at the top of the control systems of the world?
Uh, well, yeah. I mean, I believe that the reality is that we're fighting a spiritual war right now, and the strategy of the evil side of the spiritual war is to convince the good people that there is no spirit. Right. This is why so many people walk around not believing in God anymore, saying, nothing matters. I'm nihilistic now. Not, I'm worthless. I'm not a spark of the divine. I'm just a piece of shit. And so they've absolutely, it's a spiritual war, and they're afraid of us waking back up to our spirituality. I believe we all have a spark of the divinity. We're all a fractional representation of, or a fractorial representation of the global consciousness. We're all one. Even those guys are part of the global consciousness, which I have a hard time wrapping my head around on a spiritual perspective, because that means, that we're all part of that. But just like people go through their own personal journey and beating their own personal demons, uh, society to me kind of seems like it's a metaphor for an individual human's life. When earlier human history, we seem very childish for the most part, and then as society went on, we kind of grew and matured, and as a species, we're probably somewhere around our mid 30s, and this is where a lot of people start going through this realization: oh shit, I got a bunch of demons, and I got to start fighting them, because otherwise, my life's gonna tank big time. And so it's just that same story kind of playing out again. And it's time that we got to wake up. We got to be the part of the societal consciousness that goes, we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. We'll do the hard work for a short period of time for a better future.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's work, educating people, but we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't believe truly that it's the right thing to do.
Well, but beyond just educating people, people have to put their efforts in. The system survives based on their efforts. And so if you keep if you keep putting your efforts into the government system, it's going to stay strong. Put your efforts into a peaceful system, and we'll be able to just starve out the government without violence. We can do it peacefully.
Hmm. Okay, my next question is, or statement. I feel that people steer away from criticizing the government and embracing anarchism due to the fear of the government or the CIA coming after them. What is the most peaceful, nonviolent way that humans can come to embrace anarchism? Mark Passio has described teaching common natural law morality as a solution. That way, each individual is empowered with knowing their rights. Others have mentioned civil disobedience, where we basically give take back our power and stop giving power to the government, like you kind of just mentioned. What is your solution for a peaceful transfer of power from the current authorities back to the people?
Well, that goes back to my view on jury nullification. I think ideally we all just quit, but it's not going to go that way. We got to do baby steps, and so jury nullification is the way. Like the gentleman that you mentioned earlier said something about teaching natural law at an earlier age. Well, so the way jury nullification helps with that is you get a community of parents together who go, hey, you know what? We all have kids. They're all 5 years old. They're supposed to go off to kindergarten, but let's not send them. Let's do our own thing. And that doesn't mean do the homeschool that's approved by the government with government curriculum and doing what you're told you have to teach and the classes you have to take, but just keep your kids out of the school. And eventually the police will come and arrest you. Let them, right? If you don't fight back, it's less likely that they will bring force and violence against you. So let them arrest you. And so now you're in court because the government's saying you have to put your kids in school. And then the jury says, no, he doesn't, not guilty. And now they can't try you again. So now your kids are free. Your kids are free from the court system. And so now you have an opportunity to teach these natural law methods. Anybody watching this that's on TikTok, there's a great channel called the Stern Method, and I think there's an underscore maybe in there. And he's kind of interviewing his son Ryder, who he's obviously homeschooling, and both the interviews that he's posted on that TikTok, they're just great. The things this kid is learning about liberty and responsibility and morality are just like if this is what we were teaching kindergartners, we would have a completely different society by the next 20 years.
Yeah, from what I recall in my education, public school, I went to public school, so they never taught us about ethics or morality. That seems like something they would say for like a college level philosophy class, you know? They wouldn't even teach that in elementary.
Well, no, well, the point of elementary school is to teach us very, very young that there's rules for us and there's different rules for the representatives of the system, right? You're a kid and you're sitting in class, and it's of your human nature to want to bounce around, and you're told right away you got to sit down. Your teacher's walking all over the place. She's in between the desks. She's at every student. She's at the whiteboard. She sits down at her desk. She gets up, but you have to sit down. The teacher tells you can't, little Tommy, you can't steal from little Susie. But then little Tommy pulls, his cell phone out or whatever, and then the teacher comes and takes the cell phone, and she takes it away. Well, wait a minute, you just stole his cell phone. And they don't explicitly say these things, but these are the conditions, the behavioral programming that we're learning at a young age that makes us good citizens. That's why my name on, my Instagram is the model anarchist, because it's a play off the model citizen. I don't want to be a
Wow.
model citizen. The model citizen is the guy that doesn't question authority, is the guy that that not only allows his taxes to be taken, but pats himself on the back for allowing it, you know?
Hmm.
So, yeah, I go on tangents, man. I kind of forgot how we got there, but,
Well, that's
oh,
good.
teaching morality.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. Sorry.
Hmm. So, what are your views about, I guess, spirituality as a whole, and regarding the human race?
Well, as far as creation goes, one of my favorite analogies that I've come to understand about it is, it's like you wake up one day and you realize you're a video game character, and then you have a second epiphany that not only are you a video game character, but you're the one playing the video game, right? And then you have this third epiphany that not only are you in a video game, not only are you the one playing the video game, you're the one who created the video game. And this is all an illusion. This is all everything is made up of atoms. And there's a lot of scientific studies out there. What is it, the slit test or the slit experiment, where if particles aren't observed, they act differently. If one example or metaphor I'd like to give is like when people are watching this right now, they see you, they see your background, they see me, they see my background, but they don't really see that. They see pixels. And all these pixels are giving the illusion, and it's a really good illusion. Like people don't even think that they're not actually seeing me. They don't think that they're just seeing the screen, and when they're not observing the screen, guess what? It's off. I mean, it goes to screensaver mode. It saves its energy, it saves its power. And in a weird way, I believe that's the way the universe works. Whatever I'm not observing isn't actually really happening in the very small fractal representation I have of the human experience. And the same thing goes for everybody else. But we're all one.
Mhm. Another question regarding spirituality. What spiritual principles are necessary for people to understand so that we can live in a peaceful society? You mentioned stuff like self-defense principles and stuff like that. But what other ones should we all kind of uh, agree to collectively or
Uh,
to understand?
See, it's hard to say what we have to agree to collectively or try and, because as soon as I like start telling everybody how they have to be, then all of a sudden I become the entry level tyrant. So I don't have the answers as to how everybody has to be. What I think would be the best idea to adopt is this understanding that if one person's rights aren't protected, your rights aren't protected. You are incentivized to make sure that other people get to have the same free will you expect to have for yourself. And if we have that, and if we rationalize everything that happens through this idea of, was that voluntary or was that involuntary? None of us want to be on the receiving end of an involuntary interaction, right? So we have to get this idea. And social media is a great way for us to do this because the world is smaller now. We're able to communicate now. The way governments were able to form at first was off the ignorance of who those other people were. Whoever the other people were on the other side of the border, they're the boogeyman. They eat their babies, and so we got to go kill them all right now. And that's how government kind of started, was with this fear-based manipulation of fear of other people. But now we've got the internet. Now we can communicate. You can talk to people almost anywhere in the world, and more and more people are opening their eyes and going, "Whoa!" No matter what skin color somebody is, no matter which part of the world they're born into, no matter which culture they're born into, we all kind of have the same baseline morality. We all have the same incentives. Mothers are mothers everywhere, fathers are fathers everywhere. And of course, that's on a spectrum, but it's still, we all have this desire to perpetuate life. All of us men, we have this desire to love a woman. Women have, and again, I'm talking in generalities, women have this desire to be mother. So we're all the same. We all have these same principles. And so the internet brings us closer, and it weakens the government's ability to make us afraid of those people over there on the other side of the border.
Hmm. You mentioned common morality. Could we, just so we're on the same page, I know there's some nihilists out there that don't believe in anything. So what are common morals that people, I mean, have, everywhere?
Well, so for starters, I'll say morality is self-evident. We talked about it earlier. The purse snatcher. Nobody's mad at me for chasing down the purse snatcher because I'm not a threat to everybody else. And we know that stealing from somebody's wrong. We all know that, and even the purse snatcher knows that, and that's why he's running. You know. Oh man, see, I ranted again, and I forgot my place. You one more
I
time. You
asked,
asked.
what are the common, you mentioned common morality or
Oh,
common sense morality. So what is it?
right. These are all self-evident. Even the guy who stole the purse knew it was wrong. That's why he was running. We all know stealing is wrong. We all know murder is wrong. All of human history, people have gotten together in groups and lived in different areas, and they've made rules as to how they're going to interact. And the rules vary greatly, oftentimes based on the geography, the environment, the needs of what the landscape is demanding. But the common rules that they all have is don't steal, don't kill. Right? That's common morality. Don't steal, don't kill. When it comes to common law, there's only two common laws. The first one is don't encroach on another person or their property and do what you've agreed to do. And beyond that, you get to do whatever you want. As long as you don't encroach on somebody or their property and you do what you've agreed to do.
Hmm. So some of these questions they're kind of repeating because you managed to answer them already, but there are people who are nihilistic and moral relativists in this world. How can you change the minds of these people to, you said there's also people who lost connection with God and they just don't believe in anything. So how can you change these people's minds to have them understand that anarchism is based in morality and it is important to implement this into society?
Uh, with a lot of people, I don't know if I try to change anybody's minds on what it is that they believe. What I try to do is I try to come to agreements on base morality. Even with the nihilist who thinks nothing matters, like, okay, I will completely respect the fact that you think nothing matters, but are we in agreement that neither one of us are going to punch each other in the face? Like, I'm not. So as long as you don't punch me in the face, you can believe whatever you want to believe. That's up to you. I think that belief system leads to a lot of internal misery, and so I don't encourage that. But it's up to you to write your character any way that you want. But I do want to agree. We're not going to punch each other in the face, right? We're not going to steal each other's shit, right? We're good. Believe whatever you want.
Yeah, I think that even knowing that you don't want to get slapped in the face is enough to change somebody from being a moral relativist that there's no objective morals. They'll be like, oh, I don't want to get slapped in the face or
Hmm.
killed. Then even if it comes to like a self, what is the word? Where you just protect yourself, self-preservation. Even if it comes down to that being the reason why they choose anarchism, I think that's a good enough reason.
Yeah, well, and again, in my belief system, anarchy is all there is. That's all there is. We're all in control of our own bodies. It's self ownership, and that's all we're in control of. Beyond your fingertips, you can't do much.
Hmm. So my next question is about religion. Do you have a message for Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, and other religionists who support a church who refuses to speak out against the immorality of government? There are Christian anarchists who believe that hierarchical or authoritarian structures such as organized religion uh, are against the will of God since only the Creator can have authority over you. And I mean, Christian anarchists they're not part of the Catholic Church. There's a Wikipedia page on it. I think Leo Tolstoy is one of the recent writers on it that really made it a thing. But basically, just believing in a hierarchical system like a church, and some people do believe in it. And I know that I don't know the name of it, the mega churches in America, they don't really speak about the government at all. So then they probably never will because there's tax benefits and etc. So do you have a message for those people in those religions who view people in power, like physical people, as the truth tellers?
Um, I don't know a lot of the religious community that actually thinks government isn't isn't a viper's pit, and that aren't a bunch of liars. And those that do, again, I try to just come back to agreements. People aren't going to look at me and go, "Oh, I'm going to stop believing in my God now." So I just want to come to agreements. Well, does your God believe in not initiating force against peaceful people? Can we agree to coexist and let God decide at the end? Right? You don't need to be the wrath of God as long as I'm not doing anything to hurt anybody else. And so then I encourage people, make sure every interaction that you have, filter it through this. Is this a voluntary interaction or an involuntary interaction? Um, I guess I've really been trying to just plant seeds instead of change minds. And it's plant the seed of I only want to support voluntary interactions. I do not want to support involuntary interactions. And then it's up to the individual as to how honestly they're going to take a look at the behaviors they engage in. Right? If you're going to continue to vote, then you're voting for involuntary interactions. And I mean, you got to come. the way I see it, that's hypocritical, but you got to figure that out for yourself because you have the right to do whatever you want. If you want to keep complying, you keep complying. I'm not in charge of you. But I hope the seeds I plant bear fruit.
Hmm. Yeah, and hopefully, well, my message to specifically Christians, because I was brought up Roman Catholic and the Mexican American community. So, I mean, people obviously, I believe they're built with a heart, like to tell right from wrong. So, and I also think that you're just gonna have to accept that some of the Bible is not 100% correct. Unfortunately, there's some things in there that might have been changed or, put in there for the ruling class to keep their power at that time. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that not all of it's correct. There's some really great things in there, the natural order laws in there that still apply today. So just be
What
discernful, I think is a word.
the most deceptive lies are very, very close to truth and have a lot of elements of truth within them. And I do believe that, the Quran and the Bible have a lot of elements of truth within them, things that we can all feel within us because we're a spark of the divine. But Christians and Muslims were the first Republicans and Democrats. It was just two governmental bodies because the church was the government at the time, and then they were the ones waging war. They were the ones collecting taxes. They were the ones doing all the things that were counter to what they professed that their God wanted them to do.
Yeah. Okay. So my last couple questions here. Is living under the government the same as essentially living in fear? And what effect does living in fear have on our souls?
Um, one of my favorite expressions is fear is the currency of control. So we're highly motivated to by fear as people, and the government runs off of fear. It runs off the very base fear of you should be afraid of those people over there. We need a government because who's going to protect you from other governments, right? I mean, that's what it is. It's all fear, and I think it causes a lot of sickness. The abortion situation I think is sad, because I believe we're all life, and life is supposed to engage in behaviors that perpetuates life, and abortion is a behavior that results in death in the most obvious of ways. And we have this mass genocide almost of the poor and of the black communities going on through the abortion clinics, and the way to solve that problem is to get us out of a sick society, a fearful society, a society run by government that's producing all of these. The mass abortion of the poor is a symptom of a sick society. We can't address the abortion issue directly. We're kind of being like doctors if we do that. We're only addressing symptoms. We need to pull it back. We need to get out of fear. We need to turn off the TVs, shut off the government, and go, you know what? I'm not going to be afraid of my neighbor. You know why it seems to me that the government is incentivized to help immigrants not learn how to speak English. And I believe the reason for that is because it's easier to produce fear in somebody who doesn't understand the language of somebody else. And this is why so many um, conservatives in particular are afraid of the illegal immigrants is because they're afraid they don't speak that language. And now you're never going to be able to communicate with those people. It all comes down to fear. I'm going off on a tangent again, but we need to pull out of fear and understand that the global consciousness is love. The best energy frequency to radiate in is love, and if more of us radiate in that frequency, the universe doesn't care what you want. It doesn't judge you. It looks at you and the frequency that you're radiating and what you're putting out there, and it looks at you like an antenna and goes, "Oh, that's what this antenna wants more of. This antenna wants to pick up this." And we have a lot of individual antennas out there radiating fear. And so if we can start to move the number of antennas radiating fear over into radiating love, it will be an avalanche of change that comes through, a positive change.
Hmm. I think my final official question here, is spirituality and, in a way, religion a threat to a totalitarian state? Because I was going to mention China, how people have mentioned that the Chinese Communist Party wants its citizens to view the party as God and forget everything
Mhm.
else. So basically, whatever the party says is right is the right thing to do. So is spirituality, like true spirituality, anarchism, morality, the biggest fear of the government?
Absolutely. If people adopted that, they wouldn't allow themselves to be controlled. You know, our own government has already taken God out of the equation to make government God, right? You know, I think it's funny. A lot of especially conservative Christians will say, "Oh, this country's founded on God. This country's founded on God." And I go, "Well, wait a minute. Historically speaking, the Constitution is the first document, the first government. America is the first government to actively take God out of the equation. Every other government was based on God. The king was still beholden to God in every other government. America is the first government to take God completely out of the equation and rely completely on man. And so now in the belief system of government, so then over the course of time, the government, of course, has convinced people that God's not real. This is all an accident. We're just here by chance. And so now people don't believe in God anymore. And now they believe morality is, you know, they've substituted morality for legality. They believe government, because government's not real, right? I mean, you can't go to the government. You can go to a building where all the people inside the building say, "Hi, I'm the government." You can go meet people that are the representatives of the government, but the government itself is just a belief system. But the people who claim to be government, the politicians, as opposed to the preachers, are the ones using the superhuman entity known as government to justify violating the natural laws of human interaction. Same way the Catholic Church encouraged the soldiers to fight the Crusades. They said, "You're justified by God to initiate force and violence on these people over here in their home." And so the people believed it. So religion is a form of control, but you nailed it. The spirituality, the anarchism, that scares the shit out of the totalitarian uh, governments.
Hmm. So I was gonna ask, how much time are you willing to go past this? Do you have a time limit?
Oh, I could easily go another 20 minutes.
Okay, so those were the end of my official questions. I was gonna ask. I saw your Instagram reels. You mentioned as well the having a collective in your Telegram to do kind of organized movements against like systems like the DMV, the IRS. So do you want to talk a bit about that, about these organized ways to depower the government?
Well, you know, the DMV is a great one because it's the easiest tax to stop paying. Right? Because it's harder to deal with not paying property taxes. It's harder to deal with not paying the IRS, you know, at first, but the DMV is easy. And and we can show how many people are on board with no longer paying the DMV if we organize and set a date to take our license plates off. And so if all of a sudden, you know, the clock clicks over and the next day 10% of the cars don't have license plates anymore, that's going to encourage a lot of other people to go, well, why am I still paying the DMV then? You know, and eventually some of us will get pulled over, some of us will get tickets, some of us will get arrested, but just don't agree to any fines, don't take any plea deals, don't even go to traffic court. If you go to traffic court, they probably won't give you a trial by jury. You need to ignore traffic court and wait until they pick you up on a bench warrant and drag you in front of a judge in handcuffs, and then you can get a trial by jury. And then we make up the jury and we can say not guilty. And it's incredibly inconvenient. And it sucks and it's intimidating and it's frustrating, but it's way better than having to start to shoot people. You know, it's way better than having to do because we'll never out violence the government. They are a corporation with a monopoly on legal violence, and they're very, very good at it. And even if we were to rise up and violently overthrow the people who are currently pretending to be the government, we'll just put in other people who are going to pretend to be the government who are going to fall somewhere on the spectrum of authoritarians who are going to take some percentage of your income by force. So we wouldn't even win. Ultimately, the the way to do this is peacefully. The government can't combat peace. They don't know how.
Fight them with love.
That's right.
Okay. So basically, you wouldn't recommend somebody go out and take off their license plate right now, right? It would have to be a collective, organized. On this date, we'll do it type thing.
Well, if you go out and you do it right now, I encourage you to. If you want to go do that right now, do it. I have a plate on the car I'm driving right now because, because I just do it because it's a pain in the ass. And, when I first returned my driver's license to the DMV, I did this in February 2019. And in California, there's a form, DL 142, and you can get out of your driver's license contract. So I went to the DMV, I filled out the form. Well, I printed out the form at home, gave him my driver's license, and I gave him the license plates off my car too. And the lady goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Those are yours." I go, "See, it says California on them. California doesn't own my car. I own my car, right? It's not registered anymore. The registration expired, so I'm out of that contract too. And the only thing obligating me to register my private property with you guys is the contract I entered into, known as the driver's license contract. And so here's Form DL 142. I'm getting myself out of the driver's license contract. And I had license plates printed up off the internet, just some sort of vanity website, and the license plate said boycott across it, and then above it said neither crown, and below it said nor collar. I really enjoy that expression. So anyway, I drove around like that for a while. I got followed by cops maybe like 5 or 6 times, and every time, dude, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is the time. And like 5 or 6 times they don't pull me over, and then one night they finally pulled me over, and it was February 2020. So before everything went crazy, and the officer came to the window and he's like, "Hey, I pulled you over because of vehicle code violation, blah 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 blah. I need to see your ID. Oh, I need to see your driver's license." I go, "Oh, officer, I got out of my contract with the DMV. I don't have a driver's license." He goes, "Well, I need to see some sort of ID." And I go, "Well, I don't have to show you my ID unless you can articulate a crime you suspect me of committing." He goes, "I just told you it was vehicle code, blah blah blah." And I go, "Well, code's not law. That's not a crime. I didn't hurt anybody. And code only applies, it's a contract code. It's a corporate code. It's not law." Anyway, I stonewalled them for a little while. I didn't want to identify myself. It escalated. They brought out like 8 cops. They put spike strips down in front behind my car. They had cops on the outside of the car in case I wanted to run or something. Um, and I'm talking to the officer. I go, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm going about my day. I'm just not in contract, with the DMV. I go, and I'm explaining all of this to you. I've reclaimed all my rights. Why are you not upholding your oath to the Constitution that you swore? You swore to uphold that oath above all others. And he goes, "Look, man, I'm not an expert on the Constitution." And I go, "What kind of man would swear an oath to something he doesn't understand? I can't trust a man like that." And I think that was when he knew he was going to arrest me. And then the sergeant came out. I asked the sergeant, I go, "Hey, is this really a good use of department resources?" And he's like, "Absolutely not." And I go, "Well, you guys are dismissed. Please go." But yeah, that didn't work either. So anyway,
Oh,
they arrested me. They took my car. So they impounded the car. The next day, I went to go to the impound yard, with all my paperwork to try and get the car. And the impound said, "No, you have to get a release from the police department." I'm like, they're not going to give me a release. I went down there anyway. They didn't give me a release, so I couldn't get my car back. And they ended up selling my car before my court date. They didn't even give me a chance to prove that they were in the wrong. They had already sold my car before I even went to court. Pure criminal.
wow. That straight stealing.
Yeah, it was straight theft. Anybody else who wasn't wearing a police officer costume, nobody would have thought less of me if I had shot that person. Right? This person stopped me. They have a gun on their hip and they're trying to kidnap me and steal my property. I have the right to defend myself against all aggressors. They are clearly the aggressors in this situation, right? They didn't have a
Yeah.
complaint from the public.
It's funny how when that police officer goes off duty, when his shift ends, he's no longer able to do that exact thing that he just did an hour ago
That's
without
right.
that
He
without that license,
without that costume,
the
right?
costume.
He can chase down a purse snatcher when he's not, in his costume, but he needs to wear the costume because the costume makes him feel like he's been endowed with the powers of government to violate the natural laws of human interaction without the moral weight, right? He's recused of his sins. He's excused. I'm at a loss for words right now what I'm trying to say, but I'm sure you get the point. He doesn't feel responsible for violate. And that creates a lot of misery in the human spirit when you're engaging in behaviors like that. Your soul knows what you're doing is wrong, and you continue to do it. And this is why, within the police departments, you have such a high alcoholism rate and a high domestic violence rate, is because a lot of these guys, their souls are in turmoil. A vast majority of police officers, they join the force out of this desire to serve their community and protect their community and do good. And the system has a way of hijacking good intention. And these guys are so bought into this is what I'm supposed to do. They don't stop to think and go, wait a minute, what am I actually doing? And so over time, it just creates all sorts of trauma within the spirit.
Yeah, and I think how you mentioned that you're just planting seeds. I think if enough people thought like you and me, and we get pulled over by a cop, and we're able to just have a conversation with them to make them question what they're actually doing on a moral level, on a spiritual level, maybe not spiritual because they're probably not that spiritual, but on a common sense level, I think they'll go home and think about it while they're laying in
Mm-hmm.
bed.
I,
Hmm.
I hope I hope the cop that arrested me, I hope I still take up a lot of space in his head. I hope I'm in his thoughts at night wondering, scratching his head over this weirdo that didn't have a driver's license.
Yeah,
Because I got a 45-minute ride down to the jail with him, just me and him. I was in the back seat. I just talked his ear off, man. You can obviously tell I can just talk without shutting
yeah.
up for a while.
His worst nightmare. Do you
Yeah.
have any last words on maybe on spirit, on God, for people that maybe feel lost, they haven't had a connection with God, they don't even understand, like you mentioned, the three stages of realization to where you people might think this sounds weird, but like you are God in a way, like you are at least a little fraction of God's awareness.
Semantically, I would say God is me. I'm not God. He's the fullness of the spectrum. I'm just this little sliver.
Hmm.
But what I would say for people is, we live in some pretty scary times right now, and one of the things that I hope people don't forget to do is take those deep breaths when things are scary and look around, and when you're with your loved ones, enjoy your time with your loved ones. You want to feel the presence of God, then really just bask in the moments that you have engaging with your loved ones, the people that you want to be around. And if more people just simply did that, we could change the world by the end of next month.
Yeah, I think in the Bible there's a little phrase, created in the image of God. So if you view everybody else as, like, let's say, like a very powerful being, like literally in the image of God, like you'll start to have more respect for everybody. Not You won't walk past people in the street when they're hungry, things like that. You'll actually
That's
become
right.
a better person.
Oh, once I really started realizing that one is all. I'm connected to everything and everyone. They're just me living out a different example of a human. You know what I mean? It just brings out so much more compassion. It makes it so much easier to stay in like a big heart space more of the time. And the more you stay in the heart space, the universe looks down at that and goes, "Oh, that's what that antenna wants. It wants this big heart space." And it's just I've had a much more enjoyable human experience over the last few years than what I had while I was still stuck in the matrix, working a job with a name tag.
Hmm. So I had a question here that I didn't read it because it's kind of redundant. But is anarchism preferred by God? Is it the preferred way of living?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would say preferred, but certainly God gave us free will, and God established anarchism as the how creation operates. So, I mean, preferred, I guess. I don't know if this was just an experiment and he thought he was going to do it this way this time, and he's done it a different way somewhere else. But it's certainly the way he set it up. And a gift from God. If anybody tries to take that from you, that's a sin. And people try to take our free will all the time. That's what government's based on. And that it goes back to this is how we know government's immoral.
Hmm. I had an interview with James Corbett. He's also an anarchist. I don't know if you know of this it's kind of like a conference called
Yeah,
Anarchapulco.
well, hmm
Yeah, so and I had a conversation with him, and he mentioned as well that before government there was anarchism to not say anarchy because that still kind of has like the connotation of chaos. But there was
Mhm.
pure anarchism. It's just like you and me, we didn't have another. Because I also like to simplify it for people. Like, let's say there was only 100 people on the planet, and then that way you could see, okay, this interaction between these two makes sense. And now if there's like one guy that says I'm the government, and I have my buddy over here, we're the government, we have monopoly on force. Like that's already something that wasn't there before, so that's man-made.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great way to put it. It is man-made. It's what's made up. Yeah, that is a great point.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of all I have to say. Is there anything else you want to say? Any more things that I might have missed?
Um, no, I mean it's just kind of basically anarchy is kind of just the Bill and Ted philosophy of be excellent to each other. Is how how we make anarchy work really really well. But yeah,
Hmm.
I Gilbert, I've really appreciated the time and the space and the platform.
Wait, one more thing. Maybe a
Sure.
recommendation to people. Like we are creating content to try to bring this ideology to people. Do you have any advice for people maybe starting an Instagram, maybe starting a podcast, anything to kind of spread the message once they have a good understanding?
Yeah, I would say just you got to do it. You got to do it. I was stuck in that I'm going to do it limbo for a couple of months until one day I just decided, no, okay, I'm going to put up a reel. I'm just going to record it, whatever it is. If nobody watches it, then I don't have anything to be embarrassed by because nobody watched it. So nobody knows
Hmm.
that it was dumb, And then the opposite happened in my later reels. I've really been overwhelmed with how much positive support I've received from people because I've just put it out there, and and put it out there with your own flavor, right? I mean, nature does this beautiful thing where it takes all of the same species and makes every single one of them unique and beautiful. And so go out there and be the unique, beautiful human that nature created you, and do it because you love it. Don't do it because of an expectation of acceptance from others. That will lead that's a slippery slope. But yeah, go out there and find your way to do it, how you want to do it. Start, and whatever you start with, more than likely, will not be what it ends as. But you won't get to that ending point unless you get to the starting point. Wait,
Hmm.
the last thing I'll say about it, uh, I would say the one meme that really changed my life, when I read it. It was the seed that planted. It was this itch I couldn't scratch. The meme said, "In a year from now, you'll wish you had started a year ago." I was like,
Hmm.
"Damn it, that's true. That's true. I got a million things I wish I would have started a year ago."
Yeah, like it reminds me of the best time to plant a tree was, I don't know, 30 years ago or however long ago. But yeah, and my advice for people
The
that,
second best time is now.
yeah, oh yeah, the second best time is now. And my advice to people, I started this podcast. I mean, I reached out to a doctor that I knew near me for my first podcast. He discussed the jabs and children with autism and the correlation. And then I just reached out to more people through email. And you'd be surprised how nice people are, how much they're willing to educate others as well. I have Steve here. He's a nice guy. Steven, right? Steven.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. Even though it's not a big platform, we still understand that the message is important. And in the future, even if nobody sees it now, in the future, somebody else could see it. They could clip it up. And yeah, that's the important thing. Just put your foot forward and see where it goes.
Well, whether this gets a billion views or zero views, Gilbert, I've enjoyed talking to you. I like talking to like-minded people. So as far as like the fulfillment side of it for me, I've got it. I've already got it. I've enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. I hope that even if it doesn't reach anybody, I do hope it reaches somebody, and then that somebody could become the next model anarchist for other people to follow.
Oh, thanks. I hope so too. I hope so too. That's what we need. That's how change happens.
Hmm. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate it. Hopefully, we could do this again some other time.
Absolutely.
Hmm. All right, so it was a pleasure to talking to you. I'll make sure this interview gets up hopefully this week, and I'll send you a link to it as well.
Sounds good. I'll post it on my page.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey,
Have a good
thanks,
one.
Gilbert. You
Yep,
too.
thank you. Bye bye.
Are you ready? You think you can tell us what to do? You think you could tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down! Degenerate into something fool. We just got tired of doing what you told us to do. That's a freak, boy. Yeah, that's a freak, little man. Break it down. Degeneration. Degeneration. You think you can tell me what to do? Know who you're talking to? Well, you better get used to the way the ball bounces. I see what you got. It measures it out.